Just look at this move off the scrum. Oh, the line by Chocobares. Beautiful stuff. And then Malia gets it out to Dalgi as quick as possible. Beautiful try. Rugby. Hello and welcome to the new rugby update. Sorry I've been away for so long. Turns out moving house is way harder than everyone says it is. And everyone already says it's super duper hard. Also, when we moved in, we got burgled on week 1, so that sucked. And then the plumbing needed fixing, and then the electrical needed fixing. And then my dad died unexpectedly. That was the low point, really. But since that happened, I've been able to fix this office up and turn it into this green void, which has a whole bunch of reverb, so it's still a work in progress. Thank you for your patience. I barely lost any subscribers while I was gone, which I'm going to put way too much weight into for my self-esteem. Turns out all these strangers on the internet really love me. And we all really love rugby, so let's get into that. The Rugby Championship is going okay for most, but not all, and the Women's Rugby World Cup is on as well, so might even have a look at that. Let's go. Early on Saturday morning, people around South Africa had the job of ignoring their kids' cricket or netball games at school to crowd around little cell phones and watch the big game of the year. The Springboks were at Eden Park in New Zealand and they were trying to snap a 50-game winning streak. The All Blacks just had the simple job of stopping them. It's safe to say both teams did not go into this game in tippy-top form, but as always between these two great rivals, they did deliver a cracking test match. New Zealand took an early lead, but South Africa fought back, and in the end it was a pretty close game, with New Zealand holding on for the win. For the game, the stat that keeps getting paraded around is conversion rate. This is a fairly simplified measure of how good you are at taking the opportunities your opponent provides you. How many points do you score every time you get into their 22? The All Blacks didn't get into the box 22 very often, but when they did, they scored, which gave them a fairly high conversion rate of 4.2 points. The Boks, well, they were like the worst missionaries in the world. They got into the 22 often, but they got no conversions. 1.3 was their rate, which is very low. I think last year they were averaging like 3.6 or something. The Boks' inaccuracy on attack has been very annoying to watch this season, and in one case, very costly for me, because I was there. And it was costly. Seeing them run into each other on attack like they're stuck in a phone booth, or dropping balls constantly, or fluffing easy lineouts has been frustrating to say the least. The only way I'm coping is by saying, well, we have to enter a transition period at some point and there will be teething issues. That's how I'm getting through this, otherwise I might get an ulcer. Lest we forget, the All Blacks are also going through a transition period and they've also dropped down to 3rd over the last few years. But things are starting maybe to look up for them. Guys like Satiti are already showing us what they can do and we all know how good he is. And now Tupavai is starting to look like a guy who you really need in that pack at all times, along with some of the more experienced blokes. Clearly, they can still take opportunities when you make a mistake and score freak tries that make them look like 2015 again. But the Boks did handle their attack for long periods and were able to keep the ball away from them for much of the second half. So there's hope for us as well. Cope. Just cope. A good way to cope with the loss of a pet is to go buy a puppy immediately. So that's what Rassi does. He announces a new team on a Monday and then we all get to forget what happened on the weekend and speculate about what's going to happen. Right now, I am speculating about a whole bunch of Stormers playing in the backline this weekend. You know, the guys that like to play a little too loose. Please don't play this loose on the weekend. Now, even before parents were ignoring their kids' schoolyard athletic triumphs, they were ignoring them at the breakfast table because we were all watching the Wallabies versus Los Pumas in a stadium just east of Garbat in Townsville, Australia. You could tell these two teams came in a little bit more confident after some good showings in round 1 and 2. And with the weather playing along, some of the rugby served up was just beautiful. When Los Pumas are on song, the game they play is maybe the best in the world, and I implore you to go watch the tries off the back of scrums that they scored in this game. Just don't watch it at work. It's not safe. The Aussies are also looking more and more dangerous. I would know, it still hurts. Guys like Len Ikitau are starting to boss the midfield and might be in the conversation for best 12, And also Harry Wilson is turning into quite the hype man for his team. I haven't seen a captain this inspirational for Australia since like the 2000s, maybe earlier. This year's Rugby Championship is already looking better than last year's, and we called that one the best one ever. All 4 teams are playing good, all 4 of them can beat each other, and the log is looking upside down. I don't know why they showed like that. It would be really silly if next year's championship was cancelled, because 2 of the teams want to take the ball and go play by themselves. Real silly. Okay, did that sound like the old me? I'm still trying to flex this muscle again. You wouldn't believe how hard it was to write. Let's get into the Women's Rugby World Cup, why don't we? That tournament is currently taking place in England, and the crowds have been great. The games have been up and down, but I've enjoyed them, and I've never watched more women's rugby in my life, especially the women from South Africa, because they've been playing incredible rugby. It shows you what money, training, and good coaches can do for a team. They've basically changed rugby for women in South Africa, I think. The pool stages are all done, and we are into the knockouts. In the of course category, you've got England and Canada and New Zealand and France. Of course they're there. Then in the makes sense category, we've got Ireland and Australia and Scotland. And then in the final, holy shit, they did it category is the South African women. Can you believe it? They knocked out Italy in one of the games of the tournament so far, and now they get to play a knockout game against reigning champions New Zealand. So that means this weekend I have to watch New Zealand possibly spank South Africa twice. What a time to come back to make videos, eh? Other than that, there's not really any news except that I'm back, which is probably going to be on the front page of every newspaper again. And sorry again for the reverb. I hope it sounds okay. I won't know until I put it on the computer. Thank you again for not leaving, and I hope you all enjoy. Bye.